So I'm actually on the Baltic Sea right now with about 5 of our friends. One of us in particular lives here in Latvia, and the rest of us are just visiting. But it's pretty empty right now. Obviously, it's wintertime. It's the most interesting thing about where we're at, by the way, I'll give you a chance to see kind of the Baltic Sea. The most interesting thing about where we're at right now is right behind these trees here, behind me, these pine trees. 20 years ago, maybe 28 years ago, 25 years ago, there was actually a Soviet, we're gonna go look at some of the old buildings in a moment. There's a path through the woods. There's a Soviet, Russian Soviet military base over here. So obviously an American during the Cold War era, the 80s, would never be here. Capitalists would never exist. And it's kind of interesting here. You take the idea of freedom and a free market society. I want to say capitalism because capitalism gets a bad name because of how it's been abused. And I guess if it's been abused in some ways, you could argue that it's not actually true free market capitalism. But the right to choose, the right to freedom, is fascinating. There's buildings here that are abandoned because of communism era and the Russians when they left. The communism era, think about this. Our friend Andres, I'm actually going to have him on for an interview at some point. He's an incredible entrepreneur in this part of the world. But he was explaining to me that, you know, there's some of these buildings, and I said, explain this building to me on the way over here. He said, because it looked kind of like a small abandoned hotel. And what he told me was, he said, during Soviet times, what you would end up doing is you would have these co-op farmers, because you own no land. You own like the land you lived on, that's it. Everything else was communal. You didn't have to pay for the land, but there was no private stores. Government ran every facet of your life, every facet of economy. He said, so you had these communal farms, and in theory it sounds good. Everybody pitches in and helps, everybody reaps from the farm. But you had these administrators, and basically they said what had to be done on the farm, and it was forced labor on your part. Like, you didn't get a choice. They would call you up on Saturday and say, hey, the farm, we need to do such and such, or hey, we need to do this. And you had to show up. And they had these buildings there for the workers. The workers would actually stay there sometimes to help out with the farm. And he said that you didn't get a choice. You just, if they called you for I think he called it a sabonika or whatever, something like I'm not saying it right. One of my Russian viewers can tell me. But that's what they would call it. And this basically stood for Saturday workday. And he said you had to come 4 hours, 5 hours. You just never had a choice, and you were forced to go work there. It's just such a radical, you know, I think we take it for granted in a more free society. And obviously, if you watch my channel, I have a daughter named Liberty. Part of the reason I became an entrepreneur was wanting more control, more freedom in life, more financial freedom, more financial security, more time freedom. And so it's just interesting, and I'm so glad I came on this trip, because we're talking, Andres is, I think, 40 or 41 years old. When he was in high school, 91, 92, 93 is the era that the Russians left. And he talks about how incredibly difficult it was. You know, you didn't have a whole lot. You know, you've got basically a new government trying to reestablish itself. He said, and there are Russians, there are still Russians in this country. And the way that it works, if you're Latvian, there are Latvian citizens that are Russian. And they're basically like Russians came in and they had kids and grandkids and whatnot. And so they're of Russian descent, strong Russian descent, 2 or 3 generations down. They still identify strongly with the Russian government. And not that there's anything wrong with that, but it's a different way of life. So then the Russian government pulls out, the Russian citizens become Latvian citizens, and they stay here. In a lot of the parts of the world, there's a contention in North America and Asian cultures between one culture and this culture. And he was explaining that there is still contention today, but it's nothing like in the 90s, late 90s. He said it would be violence, and you would go out on the road, and as long as you didn't see anybody, you felt fine. But if you saw someone, you would wonder, is that person Russian? If you're Latvian, or if you're Russian, you're trying to figure out, is that person Latvian? Because they might try to harm you, or they might try to hurt you. God forbid, try to kill you, because there was just such a power struggle and kind of a prejudice. Yet they were all Latvian citizens. At the end of the day, You know, you think, can't we all just get along? But you just can't take your life, your blessings for granted. Many of us in North America, it is a blessing just to be in countries that have the ability to choose. Latvia is, even now, even though there's so many things that aren't a part of this culture, the fact that capitalism, the ability to create business, the ability to grow something is so much easier now. That's a blessing. So the question, I guess, is what are you doing with your blessings? You're only given one shot. You're only given one chance. I mean, you've only got so many blessings. Everybody has disadvantages, but your advantages are your blessings. So this is your one life. This is your one chance. How are you going to live it? Thanks for watching.